Hello, everyone. I'm here chatting with Kevin Logan, who we're going to start discussing the Laughing Witch incident with her and Thunderfoot, and then we'll just see where things go, I suppose. How's it going, Kev?
I'm going well, man. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Very well. Sorry for keeping you waiting.
That's no problem.
But right, okay. So, Laughing Witch.
Yeah.
Why? I suppose as I understand it, you think Thunderfoot's in the wrong in this situation. Is that correct?
Indeed, yes.
Would you like to explain why that is?
Well, there are a number of points to take into account. Firstly, I'm not here to say that what Laughing Witch did was fine. I don't think either of them come out of this looking good, particularly.
Okay.
But I think he has crossed a very significant line by dragging innocent people into this situation. He's retaliated for a situation that occurred 10 months ago now. The disingenuous nature of saying that he didn't want people to go there. Well, why did he bring it up in the first place? Why did he specifically dock drop her? And I think I can pretty conclusively say that he did dock drop her. It wasn't, because dock dropping isn't just the idea that you release information that wasn't out there at all. It was incredibly obscure information that he brought to the attention of hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah, but didn't she put that
with the expressed intention of having those people go and harass her company?
Okay, a couple of things then. Didn't she deliberately put that information into a video when she was bragging about having sent Thunderfoot's employer an accusation that he's a Nazi?
She put her name into the thing, yes, absolutely. But like I say, the disingenuous nature of his claim that you could access that information just by doing a simple Google search. If that were true, why did he not do it in January when this was a relevant topic and he already addressed it? And why did he, for instance, are we expected to accept that he just happened to do that very simple Google search on exactly the same day that information was dropped onto 8chan? That seems like too much of a coincidence to me.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, I can't speak for his motivations, obviously.
Well, I absolutely, I think I know exactly why he's doing this. It's not justice. It's not karma. It's revenge. It's bloody-minded revenge, and it's disgusting because it's not just her that's getting hurt. Her husband, who has done nothing wrong, is getting fucked over, and the 16 employees of the company who've got nothing to do with it are getting fucked over because of his actions.
Right, but it's really because of her actions, isn't it?
Well, hubris got the better of her clearly in the whole boasting situation. But if boasting about doing a fucked up thing is so wrong, then virtually everyone on the internet is guilty of that to some degree or another.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Maybe not to that degree. And like I say, I'm not going to defend the letter that was sent there because I think it was a wrong thing to do. Although I think the idea that I think as Noel Plum was discussing, the idea that those accusations are baseless is incorrect as well. I think there is a basis for those accusations, even though they're still wrong, if that makes sense. Which is why I don't think he could sue her for defamation, because I think any decent lawyer would be able to muddy the waters to the degree that you couldn't get a conviction on it. Because of the things he said about the Holocaust and whatnot.
Yeah, but but the thing is, I don't think he's actually said anything about the Holocaust. I mean, what do you think he said about the Holocaust that's so bad?
Well, essentially coming up with what in essence amounts to a justification on the basis that scientific research was done. In his conversation with Ray Comfort, he's also used some phenomenally insensitive language to discuss this on Twitter. And Twitter's not the best place, I know, because you can't exactly make grand, nuanced points, of course, in 140 characters. But that's possibly why you shouldn't discuss such things on fucking Twitter. Really.
Well, that's true. So let's leave Twitter out of it, because frankly, I'm at the point in my life now that when someone says this happened and then adds the words on Twitter, I discount it completely. I don't care what happens on Twitter. It's irrelevant what happens on Twitter, in my opinion. So it's
interesting, but I mean, I know we're diverging away from the topic slightly, but it's interesting that you take that stance now after Gamergate, which was largely a Twitter movement.
Not at all. I mean, most of the people in Gamergate probably. I mean, it's hard to say. You know, Gamergate was spread over many platforms, so I don't think it's fair to say it's largely a Twitter movement at all. I mean, it would get more possibly on Reddit than it would on Twitter. So
okay, well, possibly so. But getting back to Thunderfoot,
yeah.
Clearly,
just to be jump in there. There's the thing is, I mean, I saw the video with him talking to Ray Comfort, and I mean, the Nazis thought there was scientific evidence to back up their ridiculous theories, and so it's not he's not the one saying that the theories were correct. He's just saying this is what the Nazis thought, isn't it?
Well, no, because he was asked a specific question, and this is why at the time, I mean, I wasn't making videos, but the time I thought that he was wrong to even debate Ray Comfort, because Thunderfoot clearly isn't great at thinking on his feet in terms of sort of debate or whatever. And Ray Comfort has made a fucking career out of tying even pretty fucking intelligent people in knots due to fucking semantics and all sorts. And essentially, but even in this occasion, he didn't even need to do that, because he asked Thunderfoot the specific question. Was they were talking about absolute truth, and he asked the question, well, do you would you be against the Holocaust? What was the exact question he asked? Would you condemn the Holocaust? And rather than just saying, yes, I condemn the Holocaust, as any fucking normal, sane human being would do, Thunderfoot tried to circumnavigate that in order to preempt Comfort's fucking nonsense about absolute truth or whatever, on the basis that scientific evidence or scientific research that was done during the Holocaust somehow mitigated the evil involved. And that's just fucking wrong. Just come out and say it. And even if you then have to concede that on some points you're a moral absolutist, who fucking cares? That doesn't mean God exists. You're not ceding any ground there. It's just not being an arsehole about it, you know. But that doesn't mean, like, I'm not suggesting that he is a Nazi, but the idea that those claims are unfounded is again untrue, I would suggest.
Right. Okay. I think this is down to a matter of interpretation. I watched his interview with Ray Comfort. I took nothing away from it that implied to me that Thunderfoot was somehow tacitly or indirectly approving of the Holocaust, or not. No,
I don't think he was approving of it, but I think the incredibly callous way in which he tried to explain away some of the evil involved, just again, not because he necessarily supported the Holocaust, but because he wanted to preempt some fucking bullshit piece of semantics from Ray Comfort.
But that's exactly the point, isn't it? You know, it's not that he supports the Holocaust. It's not that he was even really taking a solid position on it. It's that he knew what Ray Comfort was trying to do, and he was trying to circumvent it. So, I mean, I don't think that is any justification.
It's true, but another point worth bringing up, and again, I genuinely don't think he is a Nazi, but that he, when he was doing the whole burning a Quran thing and the Draw Muhammad Day thing, and it was pointed out to him that a lot of neo-Nazis were supporting him, he was absolutely, his glib explanation of that was really poor, in which he was saying that they were useful idiots and that he didn't care that he was garnering that kind of support. Now, again, that doesn't mean you're a Nazi, but it doesn't speak well to your character.
I don't think it makes a real reflection on his character. I think these are things that are outside of his control that you're trying to insinuate are inside of his control.
No, I'm not saying they're inside of his control, but if you're garnering that kind of support, if you're garnering that kind of support, I would suggest you need to look at the kind of content you're producing and why it's attracting those kind of people.
Well, that's the thing. It's really beyond your control, isn't it? I mean,
it's beyond. But if you were just one or two people who were sort of Nazis or neo-Nazis, whatever, that were supporting you, you can't really control that. But if you're getting large numbers of support, that's not just an outlier anymore. That's clearly.
He is getting large numbers of support from neo-Nazis.
He got quite a lot actually during the burning of Quran and the Draw Muhammad Day thing. He did get quite a lot of support from some very, very distasteful people. Yeah, but he didn't seem to care about that.
Well, why would I know that there are Stormfront guys who watch my videos. I don't care that they watch my videos. My videos are public; they're there for them to watch. Whenever I've had interactions with them, it's ended with them loathing me like they loathe you. So, you know, it's no reflection on my character that they happen to agree with the point that I'm making. It's more that the point that I'm making is right, and just because they're neo-Nazis doesn't mean they can't say something that's, you know, factually correct. So again, all of this is just kind of guilt by association, and I don't accept it.
Well, I think it's slightly different to just guilt by association when you're willfully associating with that crowd on the basis that they're quote useful idiots. That to me hints at a slightly Machiavellian nature.
Possibly, but you know, I don't think we've got enough information. You know, I really, I mean, I think this is reaching. But either way, I think the important point, though, the important point is, I don't think any of this justifies calling him a Nazi or a Nazi sympathizer or anything like that. I think we've agreed that he's obviously not.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so for Laughing Witch to then, contact his employer saying that he is a Nazi, which is a lie. I mean, we can establish it. So I'm not saying that she hasn't got any reason, or that there's nothing that she, there is the grain of what she has seen, and she's sort of twisted it around until she can, in her head, rationalize saying, oh, well, that makes him a Nazi, even though to any reasonable person, I think we can all agree that it doesn't. And then to go on a malevolent letter writing campaign to try and get him fired, and then brag about it and scoff when she thinks she has. I mean, the ball's firmly in Laughing Witch's court here, isn't it?
Well, it is, but the point I would make, and you can absolutely flip it back on me and say that maybe I'm clouding my judgment by the fact that she's a friend of mine and all the rest of it. But the hypocrisy involved in people being outraged that she wrote letters to his employer to get him sacked, but are then absolutely supportive of, and indeed have actively gone out and sought to destroy Laughing Witch's company on Thunderfoot's implicit, if not necessarily explicit, say-so, shows a breathtaking hypocrisy. If it's terrible for one person to do it, why is it okay for Thunderfoot to do it?
Yeah, no. Well, I don't think that, we know that these are the same people. We don't know who has gone and left these comments. And to be fair, I was watching it as it was happening.
Fans, clearly, because these messages were left specifically mostly on the 20th.
There are doubtless people who are Thunderfoot fans doing it, and I'm more than willing to concede that. But the thing is, we don't know that they are the same people condemning doing that. That's the point. I think it's entirely likely.
No, exactly. Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying that, although I would argue that the numbers I've seen involved in both would suggest that there's probably some crossover. But even if there weren't a single person who condemned Laughing Witch doing it, who then also did it on behalf of Thunderfoot, the fact that those people who condemned Laughing Witch have, even if they haven't been involved in the actual economic sabotage harassment campaign, have been supportive, at least on, say, again, on Twitter or on Facebook or wherever, have been supportive of that drive and have shown absolutely no sympathy for the, like I say, the majority of the employees of that company have got nothing to do with this drama whatsoever, who are being fucked over and potentially being put on the fucking hole.
Okay. But the thing is, I really think it's important to really be specific about who we're talking about. I'm happy to concede it's people who have watched Thunderfoot's video, who have gone to Yelp and left messages. Now, I was following this as it was happening. I was on the Yelp page, I was watching it, because I wanted to make sure that I was a first-hand witness. And all of the comments that I saw were specifically about Laughing Witch's character. Now, I disagree with this. I disagree that they should have done this, because nothing to do with their business, for a start. It is purely out of a desire for revenge, and to, I guess, poison the well would be the best term, about the person who is she the vice co-owner or something of the business? I
think she was vice president. I'm not sure quite how that stands now. But
yeah, now, I mean, her being her acting in a malevolent way on the internet towards someone she just dislikes. That's, Thunderfoot didn't go and find her tiny channel and decide he was going to victimize her out of nothing. She went after him. She took actual concrete action to try and get him fired. And then, he responded by saying, whatever he said. I don't think that's a justification to go to the page and to try and sabotage the business. As I said, there are innocent people involved. As you said, her husband probably didn't know what she was doing on the internet. And I saw his Facebook post, and it really seemed that he was putting his foot down, saying, "No, look, you're endangering our livelihood. This is it. You're going to shut this all down, and it's going to stop because this is going to screw us." And, I say there are innocent people involved. I don't condone going to the Yelp page. But I don't think that we know, and I really think it's important to be specific here, that the people who are condemning it are the people who are also doing it. I really doubt they are the same people.
I ultimately, in terms of practicality, I don't really particularly care. Even if we hypothetically accept that none of the people condemning it are the people that are doing it in real world, in the real world, in terms of actual real world effects, it makes no fucking difference. Ultimately, he unleashed a mob on a group of largely innocent people for his own fucking hideously sort of sadistic ends, really.
This is another.
And not just that, but I'd like to, another point I'd like to make briefly, if you will,
Yeah.
that he and his supporters have made the argument that Laughing Witch has started a chilling precedent of taking online stuff offline into the real world. That's untrue. Thunderfoot himself opened that Pandora's box. Thunderfoot contacted the FBI about Dawa Films back in the day, and of course contacted Venom Fang X's parents as well.
Yeah,
so
wasn't that
opened
because,
that Pandora's box,
yeah,
not Laughing.
Because he was threatened.
Well, no, that's fine. Look, I'm not suggesting that on either of those occasions he was wrong to do it. But the idea, idea that somehow this is Laughing Witch set the precedent, absolutely fucking.
Okay. Yeah, okay, I hear that. Yeah, I'm happy to agree that Thunderfoot himself probably did set the precedent here, but he was in the right to do so. So it's not wrong for him to have done this. Of course, if you're being threatened by Muslim extremists, go to the FBI.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've got no problem with that. Yeah, but the idea that he's acting in some sort of defense of staying online is fucking BS.
Well,
if you're gonna,
because I mean, I just want to be go back to the previous point quickly, that you say that he unleashed a mob. I take exception to this kind of phrasing. It seems very loaded and designed, and I don't want to use the word narrative, but it's hard to think of a better word for the term. For what I'm trying to describe, because I mean, what he did was show that Laughing Witch had been unethical and posted reviews on her own company page under a pseudonym to encourage people to use her company.
True, I mean, but come on, do you think for a second that the majority of Yelp pages don't do that? I would suggest that probably most businesses have like a friend of a friend or something like that. It's just that she's a bit more obvious about it.
Honestly, I don't know, and I don't use Yelp, and I think probably other people should be cautious when they're using it as well. But that doesn't change the fact that she had acted unethically, and there's nothing unethical about pointing this out, is there?
No, that's fine. I've no problem with that. But to use that as a justification for hundreds of other people to go and give it 1 fucking star and drop it from what was a 4.6 rating to a 1.5 rating, which could be economically fucking ruinous.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And as I said, I don't agree with that. But the thing is, Thunderfoot doesn't control these people. That's
no, absolutely. This is a point I'd like to address. Right? People say, "Oh, he's not in control of an army," and in order to prove that he's not in control of an army, what he did was bring to the attention of 400,000 people potentially, and it's got like 250,000 views. The doxing video. He brought that attention to 250,000 views that has right now, and drove several hundred people to go and leave bad reviews on the Yelp page and the Facebook page and all the rest of it. And he knew full well this was going to happen. He doesn't say to any individual follower of his, he can't control exactly what they do. But he knows by making that video and wording it in the way that he did, in that kind of mafiosi style of, "Oh, nice business you got there. Shame if something were to happen to it," fucking style that he did. Fucking
I disagree with that interpretation.
That words, what was it? I wonder what would happen if hundreds of people went to your page and posted false reviews or something. It was almost exactly like a fucking mafia boss demanding a groveling apology. What a sociopath! Who fucking asks someone to degrade themselves? Anyway,
well, hang on. Okay, hang on. I didn't take from the video that he wanted people to go to the Yelp page and leave negative reviews.
Why did he bring it up? Don't talk shit, Sargon. Don't take me.
Hang on. Don't start presuming my motivation either, right? He brought it up because he wanted to make Laughing Witch look bad. That's why I brought it up. It's a very good way of making her look bad as well, because she's making herself look even worse. Not only is she prepared to take part in a letter writing campaign on the basis that she disagrees with what he says, she's also willing to lie about him to try and get him fired from his job. And in addition to this, she's also so disingenuous, she will go to her own company page and leave a glowing 5-star review without revealing to the customers that in fact she's the vice owner, the co-owner of the business. That's the reason he did it, I think.
I would suggest that you're being either phenomenally stupid or phenomenally disingenuous there. I think it's pretty obvious to any fucking reasonable human being that he brings that up in a way that he knows is going to unleash those people on that site. Now, you can say they're trolls, they're this, they're that. He knows the fucking ramifications of his actions.
Hang on.
To go down this line of plausible deniability is bullshit.
No, well, I disagree with you almost entirely here. I'm not being disingenuous. I'm
Well,
personally.
you're being stupid.
Well, you can
One
think
or the other.
but that's no different saying that you're inciting a hate mob when you do a video about Roosh or about Arena or about whoever. You know,
Well, firstly, I don't reveal personal information about any of these
well, no,
people.
but you
Secondly,
reveal the
I've got
person,
a
you know,
tiny audience.
they could go
I've
there
got
and leave comments and leave harassment, and you know, why wouldn't they? What's stopping them?
Well, if they're public figures and they've got Facebook pages, if someone goes there, yeah, that's fine. But I'm not revealing fucking business information about Roosh V and asking my fucking subscribers to go there and destroy the guy, because I wouldn't do that. I'm not. That's not my fucking interest, you know.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you, but what you're saying is he can't talk about something that she has done.
No, he can, absolutely. I was fine with his video. I mean, I disagree with many of the points, but I was fine with his video up until he went, oh, and this is the Yelp page. That if it had just cut it off before he got to that bit, I'd have had no problem with it. Well, I'd have disagreed with it, but I wouldn't have been angry
about it. He can't talk about how Laughing Witch has posted on her own Yelp page. He can't discuss that, and I think that's worth discussing. I mean, I guess the only thing that I would concede is that maybe he should have blacked out the name of the company. That would have been a more sensible move. Well,
exactly. Not just that, but the company website, which was taken down by certainly some of the Thunder drones. Thanks for that, guys. He shouldn't have revealed that at all, because there was no such fucking rating on that website. So why did he even bring that up? Why did he show a screenshot of that? That seems.
Sorry, which one?
The actual company website rather than the Yelp site. There was no rating on the company website. There was absolutely no need to show that.
Well, I mean, why not?
Well, we say why not? Well, why don't I just whip my cock out on camera? Why not? What kind of excuse?
Yeah, but what's the reason for not showing the? I mean, he as far as I'm aware,
because he knows that a lot of people are going to go and harass that company. And that's specifically why he showed it.
You can't harass a company. Okay, it's a company.
Well, no, okay. It's not a person. You can try and engage in essentially economic sabotage against.
Okay, but hang on. Look, the reason he would show her face on the company page is to prove that she is the vice president of the company. Otherwise, you know, he's not proving it without
that was on
it, right?
Right.
So the fact that he has to do that to prove his point, to say, look, you know, this is the case, and she is posting under the name Laughing Witch on her own company. So I mean, I'm not saying that it's ideal. I'm not saying it's perfect, and of course you are going to get idiots on the internet. But I don't think that in itself is incitement to anything.
Well, that's the point. When you know you have a large fan base, and this is the thing, this is not unprecedented. In the same way that when he went after Darwin Films, and the same way we went after Venom Van Gex and Coughlin and whoever, he knows when he makes specific attack videos about specific people, lots of his fans will go there and harass that person. Yeah, so there's no element of plausible deniability on the basis of, oh, well, he didn't say explicitly go and take this company down, but he knows that's what's going to fucking happen.
Okay, he has a legitimate reason to talk about this, right? He has a legitimate reason.
Not really. He had a legitimate fucking reason 10 months ago, and he did talk about it 10 months ago. The fact that he's brought this up now is because he had the opportunity to duck drop, and that's precisely what he fucking did. It's malicious.
Well, I can't speak to his motivations. I don't know that that's the case, and I'm not going to presume.
So he just so happened to do that simple Google search on the same day that the information was released on 8chan. Are you expecting your viewers to listen to that and accept that?
I have no idea, man. I don't know. I don't even know that it was released on 8chan. I don't know who
I will send you the
I would like to know the timestamps of when it was done. I think it's entirely likely.
On Twitter, I will get the screenshots for you.
Sure.
I will show them, because my friend Jenny McDermott was doxxed there as well.
Yeah, don't worry, I've been doxxed in 8chan too.
Well, actually, I'd like to bring that up with you as well. Actually, the callous way in which you dealt with her being doxxed. You said, was it welcome to the club?
Yeah.
As if that's fine. Just because other people have been doxxed doesn't mean that she should be okay with being doxxed.
I have been doxxed. You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know what it's like. I know that it's not fun, but I also know. So I'm getting a lot of echo back.
Okay. Well,
I don't know what's happening. But the thing, I know it's not fun, but the thing is, it's something that can happen to you when you make yourself a public figure on the internet and you get involved in controversies. There's nothing that can be done about that.
Yeah, but just because you've taken that kind of philosophical approach doesn't mean that everyone else will react in the same way.
I'm not asking them to.
Well, you sort of are by saying welcome to the club, as if she should just be like, oh, never mind, lackadaisical about it. Now, but on a personal level, that's how I do. I know eventually I'm going to get dogs. That's not a problem. It's going to fucking happen. But
yeah,
just because I react that way, I don't expect that everyone else will or should.
Yeah, but where are you going with this? What's the point?
The point being, why were you an arsehole to her about it? Why were you being flippant and callous about it? You're out of order.
Because I have absolutely no love for Jenny McDermott.
Yes, but she's still a human being.
Of course she is.
So why be an arsehole to her?
Well,
it's not
that exact line of reasoning as to why did Jenny McDermott make videos attacking me? I mean, I'm a human being. Why be an arsehole to me?
Yeah, but she wasn't doing it on the basis that you'd suffered some sort of fucking misfortune.
No, she was doing it on the basis that I said something she didn't agree with.
Yeah, that's fine. And by all means, attack her for saying something that you disagree with, but not for her having suffered what is an absolutely awful breach of her privacy.
Well, yeah, but me not caring about Jenny McDermott isn't me attacking her.
Okay. I mean, okay, well, I think that stands for itself.
I mean, I'm sorry. I condemn anyone doxing. It's a low tactic. There's no need for it. And the thing is, as well, it never works. You know, it never silences someone. I suppose maybe in the case of Laughing Witch, it actually has, but it very rarely works. Then,
well, bringing that on to a point that we were sort of initially going to discuss, your politics.
Yeah. Okay.
What did you say in the past that it's not left versus right? It's authoritarian versus libertarian, correct?
That's the important distinction, I think, at the moment.
Right. Well, I would argue, just on the basis, linking it back to the Laughing Witch situation, there is one side of the feminist versus anti-feminist discussion or debate, or just frankly,
however you want to describe
it. That is silencing one side at the moment, and the other isn't. And it's Laughing Witch, it's Hannibal the Victor, it's what was her name?
Do you think that these people haven't taken attempts to silence people they disagree with?
I'm not saying they haven't. Certainly Laughing Witch did, of course, with the letter. I don't know. Has Hannibal the Victor, was he involved in that? I can't remember.
I actually don't know whether Hannibal's...
Yeah, I can't remember. But even so, atheists are being driven from the community by anti-feminists.
Yeah, but that's...
Just on the basis that they don't like them.
Yeah, but that's because they've tried to do the same thing. Why would I have particular empathy for their position when they failed to show any empathy for the people they were trying to drive out of their community?
I'm not asking you to necessarily do that, but I'm suggesting that the idea that it's your side, the libertarians, versus our side, the authoritarians, is fucking BS on the basis that we, the authoritarians, are being silenced by the supposed libertarians. That's nonsense, clearly.
Isn't that just rather amusing, though? I mean,
it's not rather amusing at all. It's fucking distasteful at best.
Well, yeah, but it is distasteful, which is why the authoritarians should never have tried it in the first place. And now that you're getting a taste of medicine, I'm really not having that much sympathy for you. Do you see my point?
No, I'm not asking. I don't give a fuck whether you feel any sympathy in the slightest for me or for Laughing Witch or for whom. My point is, the tag that you have applied to yourself is fucking incorrect on the basis that you're not libertarians in the fucking slightest. You're just as authoritarian when it really comes to it.
I absolutely condemn doxing. I condemn people going to Laughing Witch's Yelp page. They should not do this. I don't want people silenced. I want people's arguments addressed. This is why I'm talking to you right now about these things. I want to have these conversations. You know, the issue is that the people on your side of the argument have taken steps to try and silence people. And now, you know, there's a big hoo-ha because it's blown up in their faces. Well, you know, okay, I don't approve of what's happened, but I'm not going to shed a tear.
I don't ask that you do. I don't ask that you do. I know. I will ask that you be more honest with the labelling. Now, before we get into this, right?
Okay.
The left versus right thing, right? And I've been accused of this in the past. I don't really give a fuck whether someone's left wing or right wing, particularly. It's not a real massive concern to me. Just because you're left wing doesn't make you right or wrong. Just because you're right wing doesn't make you right or wrong. The idea is stand and fall on their own. But what I do ask is that people be honest with at least roughly where they stand. I don't think you have been.
Right. Okay. Well, I disagree with that, but I agree that we should be honest. If it's not a big deal, why do you always seem to make it sound like a big deal?
Well, it's not. Well, again, it's not. Look, if you just came out and said I'm right wing, that would be fine. I wouldn't ever mention it. Really, I'd take you on your ideas and your politics, but I wouldn't give a fuck that you call yourself right wing, because that's where I see you anyway.
Yeah, but that would be a lie. That wouldn't be true.
Well, I would. Well, I will get into why you think that is and why I think that is in a moment. But from my point of view, I see you as a right wing person by and large, not in everything, because no one's a monolith, of course.
Well, yeah.
But I see you generally as a sort of centre rightist, I would argue. And I think that you use the proud history from the left of anti-racism and anti-homophobia and all the rest of it as your shield against accusations of those things.
Right. Well, okay. I don't. I use the fact that I'm not those things against accusations of being those things.
Okay, well, I think it's worth breaking down what left and right really mean.
Sure.
And I think the main 2 points, I think, that are the kind of the source of the 2 rivers, as it were, would be where you fall on the question of whether power structures are natural, whether they naturally occur or whether they're constructed by societies, and whether those power structures are worth defending or should be changed.
Hang on, how exactly is that a left-right issue?
Well, everything stems from that point. That it's essentially when you say it's literally conservative, the pre-existing power structures on the basis that they're natural, on the basis that men are more powerful or men are more likely to seek political control, that white men, certainly in white countries, are more likely to rise to the top, and that these things are perfectly natural and therefore worth containing, if that makes sense. Whereas I think a lot of left-wing people would say that they're societally constructed and should be changed to be more fair.
Okay. Okay. It's interesting you say this. So you think that challenging these power structures is a left-wing philosophy?
By and large, yes, or certainly at least questioning whether they are actually natural and innate to those in power.
Okay, so how do you explain the anarcho-capitalists who are very much on the right and in the bottom right quadrant?
Well, they're a very strange group, because I've never met an anarcho-capitalist who wasn't also a massive fucking liar. And I don't mean that just because I disagree with them. I genuinely haven't. The people that, and it doesn't matter whether it's on corporal punishment or abortion or whatever, there's always some fucking sticking point with them where police brutality, a lot of them, they don't mind black people being fucking killed, but apparently they're against state power.
Honestly, I don't think you can make that generalization. I really don't.
Well, if there are anarcho-capitalists out there who aren't hypocrites, please, by all means, get in touch. I'd love to meet you, because I've yet to meet one yet.
But the whole sort of bottom right quadrant is the sort of libertarian right, where they're very much anti-state, pro-individual, and anti-hierarchy. And the further right and down you go, the more dogmatic they are about this, until you get to the sort of anarcho-capitalist, stateless people who want to live in, I don't know, the Wild West or something. So that's not left wing in any shape or form, is it?
No. But again, I would contend that they're an outlier rather than an outlier that proves the point, if that makes sense. I think by and large conservatives are in favour of preserving the pre-existing power structures, and generally speaking, left-wing social democrats, socialists, whatever, see those societal structures as societally constructed and therefore can be deconstructed. Okay,
hang on. Sorry. You said conservatives are in favour of conserving those power structures. Is that correct?
Yes.
They would be generally the top right quadrant, wouldn't they?
Yes, so but even then, I think the political spectrum, or not spectrum, the political the 4-quadrant test thing that you're talking about, I don't think is sufficient, if that makes sense. And I know that seems strange because I generally talk about it as a spectrum, but that's just a linguistic.
I think it's a good working model for us to use for the purposes of this conversation, at least. I mean, it pretty much covers everything we need to deal with. I mean, hang on. Yeah. So we've established that on the right, you've got the libertarians who are anti-hierarchy, anti-structure, who literally want every structures destroyed. I mean, everything you're saying that the authoritarian left would want, they want as well, right? But for different reasons. And then you've got the sort of authoritarian right, who are the traditional conservatives, moving up into the sort of neocons, who want to either continue things as they are or increase them. They want a larger state, they want more military, they want imperialism. And so these are the opposite of the authoritarian left, or at least the premise that you're presenting for the authoritarian left. And then,
it's not a matter of even the authoritarian or libertarian left. I think just in terms of it, I bring these two factors up just as the source for where those differences come from. It's not that one has to be the opposite of the other, or one has to be.
It's not they have to be; it's that they are. It's what it's what these political positions are trying to achieve. And so, I mean, I understand that feminism, like you were saying, it would like to declare that all of these things are socially constructed, and they might well be, and it would like to change them because they're socially constructed into feminism's definition of what the ideal world would look like. Is that correct?
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, I mean, that in itself is an authoritarian position. We want to dictate to other people how things should be because the way things are at the moment isn't satisfactory.
No, I think that's a step too far. Not necessarily even a straw man, because there are clearly feminists who do believe that way. Yeah. But I think feminism is too much of a broad church to say that we wish to have it imposed by some sort of force or whatever. For me, it's a matter of education, and not education in some sort of horrific fucking Stalinist re-education. But in terms of socializing, it largely has to start with children, but of course it works for adults as well, in just generally trying to be more decent and accepting of people other than yourself and other than your in-group. And on that basis, hopefully society will change by itself. I don't think it has to be forced.
Yeah, but you do understand that this is inherently authoritarian though, right? You're not leaving people to their own devices to discover things on their own, to interpret the world as they want. You're saying that we're going to educate you in the way that we want.
Well, in the sense that I don't think people can be 100% trusted, because people are capable of evil, and I don't wish to see that evil prosper.
Okay, but now we're bringing moral judgments into it.
Well, absolutely, but I don't see how you can't. I don't see how trying to come up with any system of governance doesn't involve morals.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm just saying this wasn't part of the equation, and now the goalposts have moved. The issue we were talking about is whether the left, feminists, particularly on the left, were authoritarian or not, and we've established that they are. I mean, what you're trying to do.
Yes, but the thing is, I think you're being slightly, again, that's slightly disingenuous in the sense that you're trying to equate all authoritarianism as one thing,
no, or
trying to raise the boogeyman spectre even of authoritarian. We're not fucking Stalinist authoritarian.
No, I'm not. Look, man, I'm not saying you are, but that's the thing. Not everyone on the libertarian right is an anarcho-capitalist.
No, absolutely. I think the anarcho-capitalists are the outliers. I think they're a tiny.
Yeah, they are. And then you've got the sort of more rational, reasonable libertarians, and then as you move towards the center. But this is the point. I'm not saying this is exactly what I'm saying though. The communists are the very top corner of this quadrant, and the feminists might be like halfway or a third of the way. I'm not saying that you want to implement communism. I'm saying that you are being authoritarian though. There's no question of what you're asking not being authoritarian. It is authoritarian.
But in that sense, if you stand for any government regulation, you're authoritarian, because you're enforcing stuff rather than just letting people do their shit. Unless you're an absolute fucking libertarian, you're an authoritarian then on that basis.
That you are on a scale that tolerates authoritarianism, don't get me wrong, but it's to a point, and it's not to the same thing. What you're proposing
where are you?
Hang on, Kev. What you're proposing is social engineering. Okay, that is an authoritarian concept. To have a government that enforces the agreed laws of the land is not necessarily an authoritarian thing.
Well, it is in the sense that if it's a government which stands purely for the keeping up the same power structures at the expense of at the expense of minorities or the expense of poor people or women or whatever, that is social engineering. It's just socially engineering the same situation to continue.
Yeah, but
just because I'm socially engineering a change doesn't mean I'm worse.
Yeah, but we don't have any of these. None of our structures are based on the idea of exploiting women or minorities or children or whatever. And any of those, I mean, there were structures that look like that. You know, you can think back to the Victorian chimney sweeps or American slavery. You know, there were institutions like that. Well, but how would you could point to one now that is?
Our whole economic system, the whole idea of the kind of the wannabe laissez-faire capitalist states or the capitalist, the kind of neocon right or whatever, wish to enforce a kind of wage slavery on people. It's absolutely about exploitation. I don't see how you.
And I agree. I'm very much against sort of a corporatist agenda, and it's disheartening to see people voting for Hillary Clinton. But
exactly, that's the point. That this is a very strange one, because in recent videos you've done a couple about the neo-progressive ideas coming to the forefront in world politics, and that's clearly not true, because you've just even accepted it there, that Hillary Clinton is the corporatist candidate, and she's the left-wing fucking savior, is she? How is that neo-progressive in the slightest?
She's not the left-wing savior at all. She's a Trojan horse, Kev. She's going to.
I'm not saying she is. I was using that term.
I know. But this is the thing. She's using these neo-progressive ideas as a Trojan horse to implement a corporatist agenda. I really don't think anyone could disagree with that. And you have to understand, right, that capitalism isn't the purview of the authoritarian right.
No, absolutely not.
It's without a doubt almost every quadrant. I mean, I suppose the authoritarian left might be arguing for a planned economy. You know, that seems to be what you're arguing for.
Well, to a degree, even the top right corner would be as well. It just would be planned on the basis of corporate welfare, in essence.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree that the neocons, to a certain degree, are probably arguing for a planned economy where corporations control the government and therefore control foreign policy and control where vast amounts of money are shifted.
Which I would argue is precisely the situation we currently find ourselves.
Oh, without a doubt. In most of the Western world is
so. Where's your
grip of professional politicians who are effectively bought and paid for? That's what makes Trump such an amusing and outstanding candidate. That's why people pay attention to him.
Yeah, but on that basis, then, if you've just accepted that most of the Western world is in the pocket of big business, where the fuck is this nonsense about neo-progressives being the kind of the zeitgeist?
Because there's big businesses, politics, and economics. We're talking society. We're talking social issues.
Okay, well, I've yet to see, particularly just on the basis that gay people are allowed to get married now.
Yeah, no, I think
I would suggest that that's a success. I don't see that. You make it seem like it's some sort of sinister plot by the neo-progressives to take over or whatever. And
no, I've never said that. And I mean, the thing is, I think you have to understand why people support this who aren't progressives, right? I support it because I'm tired of seeing the rights of gay people being infringed by, say, the religious right or, you know, whoever was opposing it. I don't think they have the rights to impose their views onto gay people.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm on the sort of libertarian left. I think the state should exist. I think it's silly to desire the state not exist. And in fact, I think the state should exist to enforce individual freedoms. And one of the individual freedoms the state should enforce is the right to marry whoever you bloody want. You know, so
I'm absolutely with you on that point.
Right, but why do the neo-progressives want gays to get married? You know, I very rarely hear them saying anything about individual rights. I hear them talking about the group a lot. Gay people should be allowed to get married. Well, which gay people? Why? What's the why? You know, I know my reason.
I see it as it basically, and I can't speak for all of these supposed neo-progressives. No. I sort of reject that tag, but whatever. I presume you would see me as part of that or whatever.
Yeah, I do. But hang on. Just, why? I don't really see any reason for you to reject that tag. I mean, you are progressive, aren't you?
Yes, but the term neo-progressive it basically seems the way you're using it seems like you're trying to give a polished intellectual veneer to SJW, basically. It's just a posh way of saying that.
Well, an SJW is a neo-progressive activist. It's someone who's agitating in favor of neo-progressivism as an ideology.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. That's not an insult. It's not pejorative.
I would suggest if you're saying that, and I think you've accepted that SJW is a pejorative. Just like giving it an intellectual veneer doesn't make it any less of a pejorative.
I disagree. I don't think it's a pejorative at all. It's not an insult to call someone an activist for neo-progressivism. I mean, why is that insulting?
Okay, that was an off-the-cuff remark. Okay, let's just hypothetically accept that I'm a neo-progressive or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't speak for all of them.
Of course.
But my point with gay marriage is that whether you want to look at it as individual rights or a collective right or whatever, I really don't see that in the real world it makes any fucking difference, on the basis that you either accept that homosexuals are human beings who are worthy of the same rights as any other free human being. That's it. That's the be all and end all of that conversation for me.
That's a different perspective, but fundamentally, as I agree with you, I mean, fundamentally, both of our arguments hinge on accepting the humanity of the individuals involved. You know, you might want to accept the humanity of a collective or the humanity of an individual. It doesn't really matter as long as the end result is the same. In this instance, it is.
Yeah.
But this is the point. This is the issue. You're approaching it from a different perspective to me. We're both on the left. We're just not in the authoritarian, libertarian quadrants. We're not in the same quadrant.
Well, I've got a few examples, I think, of where I think, and again, I'm happy to accept that you do have left-wing stances.
Mm-hmm.
You're not a monolith. No one is, apart from possibly Davis Orrini, who's just an all-round cunt. I think that's the one point that me, you, and Thunderfoot could agree on. I think. But very few people are monoliths, of course. So you have left-wing stances. But I would suggest that there's too much of you that veers onto at least the centre right, if not at some points pushing pretty radical right-wing views.
I would love to hear the right-wing views that I hold. If you don't,
it's the obsession you have with political correctness, my man, is that's almost exclusively a right-wing concern.
How is it a right-wing concern?
Well, because most people on the left, I think, accept that just not being an arsehole to people verbally is probably a good thing to do.
Yeah, but how's that a left-wing concern then? That's just a polite person concern. I mean, you will never meet a more polite group of people than traditional conservatives. They will go out of their way.
Unless you happen to be from one of the ethnic minorities that they dislike.
Well, do you ever see them calling people nigger?
I've seen it, yes.
What, on TV?
No, not on TV, in real life.
Well, okay, I've never seen it in real life either, but I mean,
presumably,
I figured we were talking about the media, really. But okay, fine. So I don't see this. I've never seen a traditional conservative use the word nigger.
But presumably, you live in a relatively middle-class area, I would guess.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so you're probably less likely to see that kind of behaviour. And that's not. I'm not dissing on poor people because I live in a poor area, you know.
Well, so what are you saying? There's people from an upper class area who do that?
No, I'm saying that the higher up the echelons you go, probably the more formally polite people are going to be, by and large, regardless of whether they're left or right wing.
Yeah.
I mean, just on the basis of my own experience of the world.
Yeah, but I didn't start in the middle class. My family are very much working class, and you know they don't tend to use the word nigger, but they aren't traditional conservatives.
And also, you don't have to use the word nigger to be racist.
No, that's true, but it's just a good indicator, isn't it?
It's arguably the most extreme indicator, but yes, that would be a good indicator. But you can treat people differently on the basis of skin color without actually even saying anything.
The thing about political correctness, Kev, it's it's not a left or right issue. I mean, there's.
No, I'm not saying it's exclusively, as with most issues, like with your anti-Europeanism. That's not strictly left or right, but by and large,
the thing is, right, I don't think it's at all a left or right issue. I mean, I've heard plenty of American conservatives who want religion to be respected in the same way that you want, women to be respected. You know, it's this control of other people's language that is the issue. And
I'm not.
Hang on. Fundamentally, it's not about left or right. It's about authoritarian and libertarian. I will not have my language policed because of someone else's feelings. That's just the way I'm going to be. I'm sorry. I'm not going to be any other way. And it's because I'm on the libertarian aspect, rather than the authoritarian aspect, which are the people who are trying to stop me.
Well, but my point with political correctness, and as anyone who's watched any of my videos will tell you, mine is not a safe space kind of channel.
No, not at all.
But I'm for the in certain instances safe spaces being around, and I'm for in general in certainly in formal settings, say in work or government office or whatever, and generally in the street. I think I'm for political correctness. The reason that I think it's slightly different, say online, is because you're doing specifically responses to an individual that maybe you don't like or whatever. I will give political correctness and basic human decency to everyone until they give me a reason to remove it.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. I don't think that insulting someone is quite as bad as you think. I think that people get insulted. People insult each other. It's a part of life.
Well, there's undoubtedly a group of people within society that are professional offence takers, and those people need to fuck off because they're making it more difficult to make the argument for political correctness. Because essentially, whenever you have a system in place that's for the benefit of people, unfortunately, some people will abuse that system, and it makes it more difficult to sustain.
But don't you think that that's an inherent weakness of the system?
Possibly, but I don't think you should give up on something that is potentially very good. And I would argue political correctness is a potential very good and has had a huge impact. Like you say, the word nigger was commonplace after the Second World War and has all but died out, other than in kind of rap culture or whatever. The word nigger just isn't used in general conversation.
Yeah, I don't want to be an absolutist. I don't want to say that there isn't anything beneficial to political correctness. And, like you say, I mean, for things like nigger, yeah, okay, it's probably better in general that the term has either died out or lost its impact, and I think I honestly think that rap culture sort of adopting it and owning it is something that's been very instrumental in removing the power of the word.
Absolutely, yeah.
But then we're getting into the more sort of stoic side of things, saying, well, the only power anything has is the power you give it. So the only thing to actually do is alter your perspective of a thing.
True.
And then you remove the power.
Then it strays into areas of almost essentially victim blaming, of saying, oh, it doesn't matter what anyone says about you or your group or your community, you should just fucking take it.
Yeah, no, but it doesn't. It's not victim blaming though. It's completely opposite. It's like the ultimate in individualism. It's saying that you are the person who decides what harms you. Saying something. Kev, if I called you a fat potato man, you're not going to go and cry about it, are you? You're going to be like, well, I don't care. And the same to me. If you call me a fat potato man, I'd be like, who cares?
Well, an interesting
that I'm going to take offense to, and that's the point. We have to start encouraging people to understand that offense is taken and not given.
An interesting point on the basis that you called me Mr. Potato Man a couple of times in videos, which actually was very funny. I did laugh. Yeah. And you talk about not having an influence on or not controlling your audience or whatever. Mm-hmm. No one, up until that point where you call me Mr. Potato Man, no one had called me that. And now all of your fans, almost to a man, always post under my videos, Potato Man. Every fucking time. Loads.
I get the same thing.
I don't mind. It's very funny. And by the way, what people don't seem to realise is when you post comments under a video, you're promoting that video. It gets better on the algorithm.
It's a share, isn't it?
So yeah, you pour hate on me, and my channel grows. You fool.
I do not mind. I'm not for no platforming. Like I said, I'm not for silencing people, man. I would rather your views be aired.
Absolutely. Because there are some situations in which
maybe there are some situations where maybe some people are so distasteful that you wouldn't they're openly advocating pedophilia or something.
Yeah, well, it's not even that. I'm not for the absolutely no platform under any situation sort of thinking, because I don't think there's anything you can or could possibly think of to say that can't have some place to be said. I'm not in that kind of mold, which is possibly where I diverge from the quote unquote authoritarian left. But I think there are situations in which there are certain things which just are not good in general for society. For instance, I mean, the obvious example is would it be okay for a neo-Nazi group to have a protest outside London Central fucking synagogue on Hitler's birthday? It's probably not the best time and place for it. You know what I mean?
Okay, but by what
Does that mean that I'm for all neo-Nazis not being able to have their say? No.
Okay, but hang on. That's an interesting point. But by what rationale do you stop them?
Well, on the basis of breach of the public peace, because you're obviously going to be inciting people, aren't you? That's if you're going to hold that type of event at that place on that date, that's clearly not randomly chosen. You're clearly trying to incite a reaction, which is going to be violent, isn't it? So basically, you move them on. You say you can have that rally on that day, but somewhere else, or you can have the same rally at the same place on a different day, or whatever. Yeah.
I think neo-Nazis are capable of having peaceful rallies. I mean, I've seen video footage of neo-Nazis having peaceful rallies, and
absolutely, yeah.
We've got police. They can contain the situation. There are hardly any neo-Nazis in real life anyway, so it's not like it's going to be a particularly large gathering.
Well, with things like the EDL, I think have proven that there are significant enough numbers of neo-Nazis.
Sorry, what?
People like the EDL, for those who don't know, the English Defence League, who were, at least in theory, an anti-radical Islam group who went around essentially doing, I think Dick Coughlin described it well by saying they were like urban violent ramblers.
I'm not sure what the numbers of the EDL are, and honestly, I'm not sure what their political philosophy.
Well, when they first kicked off, I went to one of their first gatherings when they came to Brom and smashed the place up and got ran out of town by lots of young Asian kids, and there were thousands, mate.
Okay, but I mean, either way, does that mean that you should be able to prevent their right to assembly? I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that if they get violent, they shouldn't be stopped. They of course should, but we have police for that. They're well trained. They've got riot control gear. They've got pepper sprays and all that sort of thing that the government uses on peaceful protesters all the time. So why would they not be able to use them on violent protesters?
Well, my point isn't that, like I say, I'm not a person who stands for no platform under any situation, because I think every person, regardless of how distasteful their views are, should be able to have some space in which they can express those views. Even like you say, even paedophile fucking advocates or neo-Nazis or whomever, they're human beings who are entitled to their view. As long as they don't commit any crimes or anything, of course. But my point is, so I'm not saying that neo-Nazis would have all of their rights to assembly removed under any circumstance, but in that specific instance of, like I say, outside a synagogue, or with the Islamophobic people outside a big mosque or whatever, on a specific date, specifically meant to incite a reaction, that's wrong. Basically, you would say, okay, you can have the fucking gathering, you can do your fucking speeches, but you do it elsewhere. Just on the basis of a breach of the public peace.
No, I mean, every protest is designed to incite a reaction. You can't say that there's a protest that's not designed to incite a reaction. What would be the point in protesting?
Okay, incite a violent response, an immediate violent response.
I don't think you can say that. I think that they're making a political statement. It's not one I agree with, but I agree with their right to do it. I mean, I can see the argument for saying, well, on Hitler's birthday outside a synagogue, maybe not. Maybe it's just, don't get me wrong, I understand, it's, breaching their freedom of assembly, but practically from a pragmatic perspective, I could see why they would refuse it. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I would just accept that my personal principles here have been contravened. They've been transgressed. I would just accept it. It's not the world's biggest deal. I'm not going to cry fucking a river for the neo-Nazis, even though I don't agree with it. But the thing is, the question is, where does that end? Because I think universities are a great example of how that principle has become, well, kind of inverted on itself, and now it's creeping outwards. It's not, now you've got like Milo Yiannopoulos and Julie Bindel being banned from Manchester University, and I think Cardiff, it wasn't Cardiff, it was somewhere else, but on the basis that they frankly, have Julie Bindel's transphobic, and I think Milo Yiannopoulos has made comments that may be considered that way as well. And then that's been the reason to no platform a lesbian and a gay. They're not neo-Nazis.
I don't think that their sexuality needs to be taken into account at all. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, but for people who are constantly going on about lesbian and gay rights, no platforming a lesbian and a gay is a strange thing to do, isn't it?
Not necessarily. If they're being direct. And by the way, I'm not saying I support that. I don't know the specific.
I know.
I've heard about it, but I don't know the specifics of the situation or anything. But I find the two individuals in question incredibly distasteful. But the idea that because they're gay or lesbian or transgender or whatever, they should be entitled to some sort of special hearing on the basis that if they're damaging the movement for gay or trans rights, I don't care that they're gay or trans themselves. I think that's wrong. I think they're undermining their fellow gay or trans people. So the idea that they should be entitled to some sort of special hearing for their views is bullshit.
Okay, that's an interesting position, and I agree with you that the fact that they're gay and lesbian should have no bearing on the situation. It's just very ironic that people who constantly make the fact that certain groups of people and certain individuals are gay and lesbian a big deal, and they're constantly arguing for their rights, would happily trample on the rights of a gay and a lesbian simply because they have expressed views that they don't agree with. That's all I'm saying.
I think that's possibly to the point I was making earlier about those who were supposedly libertarians laughing at, say, Laughing Witch for having her rights removed. Well, not her rights removed, but her platform.
Yeah. But the thing is, she did that to herself, or her husband did that to her. It's.
Well, you could argue, therefore, that Milo Yiannopoulos has done it by being deliberately controversial.
Yeah, but nobody. Yeah, but no, I don't think it's apples to oranges there. No, Milo, he may well be deliberately controversial, but that doesn't mean that the university has an interest in not letting him speak. There's no fun. The reason that Laughing Witch, his husband, has made a close down channel is because it's threatening their livelihood. It's not going to threaten the Manchester University's livelihood to allow Milo and Julie Bindel to speak. It's just they've done it out of preference.
On the point of her husband closing or telling her to close the thing, it's a point that was made by some people about her rights haven't been infringed or whatever because she closed it down herself. Mm-hmm. The idea it would be, I thought this last night, the equivalent would be if I came, say, round, I bumped into you in the street and put a knife to your throat and said, "Give me your money," and then you physically hand the money to me, and I go, "Well, I didn't steal it. He handed it."
I'm not saying that she didn't do it under duress.
No, exactly. That's my point. I was just speaking to those people who made that fucking absurd argument.
That's a fair point, but that's the kind of the point about Manchester University. They seem to have been under duress themselves. Excuse me, when they cancelled the conversation between Milo and Julie.
Yeah, I have
not to the same extent. Don't get me wrong. I completely accept that the duress that Laughing Witch was under was far greater than the sort of social pressure and condemnation Manchester University was facing. But I mean, come on, you must be able to see how pragmatically there is a vast gulf of difference between.
Well, yeah, I do actually have a lot of sympathy for university staff or whatever that have to go through that process, because I'm sure they've got it, regardless of what they believe about the person's views, they don't want this controversy. And the fact that they're being pushed and pulled in both directions by supporters of Milo and people who are against him it puts them in an almost impossible situation because they can't win.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but I guess it comes with the territory. If you're going to be running a university debate society or running a platform to try and introduce new and interesting ideas to your students, you're going to have to be prepared for controversy. If you're not tough enough to take it, you should probably have a different job, shouldn't you?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, on that point, Spinosaurus Kin, I don't know if you heard what happened to him.
What happened? No, what happened to him?
Well, I don't know the exact, and I don't know what university he's at, but supposedly some. I don't know if I presume they must have been feminist, radical feminist people found out that he was the Spinosaurus guy from the internet, and went around and basically, I think they intimidated him or something. But I chatted to him last night and he was fine with it apparently. But even so, I mean, that's well out of order. I thought that was worth getting on the record for people because I was asked about it. And that's you can't to go around and intimidate someone based on you don't like their opinions or whatever is fucking BS. Don't fucking do that.
See, now that a lot of people always ask me, why do you get Kev on your channel to talk? And that's honestly the reason, Kev. It's the fact that you understand that people aren't a monolith and you are quite happy to accept that there are situations in which the faction you're sort of in, you're with, can do bad things. And I like to think I can do the same. Like I said, with Laughing Witch, people should not have gone to her Yelp page. They absolutely shouldn't, And it's nice to hear you say that because, again, it recognizes the humanity of the guy. One of the things, and this is the problem. This is the overarching problem that I really have, because I don't really think we're arguing for things that are all that different. I think really we're arguing for different means. And I guess the real issue, I mean, what do you think should be done about like a roving gang of feminists who are intimidating a poor chap because he's putting his opinions out on the internet? What should be done?
Well, ultimately, if they're physically intimidating the guy, they need to be dealt with by the fucking law. Right, I mean, I don't know how else you could deal with it, really.
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, I would have thought social pressure could probably help.
I think it probably could, but in terms of the actual incident that took place, I mean, social pressure might prevent it from happening in the future, or might have stopped it from ever happening in the first place. But the fact that social pressure clearly wasn't there, I would argue that from what I know of the situation, that a crime occurred in terms of actual fucking real world intimidation occurring to the kid, and that's wrong. And I'm not suggesting they need to go to jail, but maybe a fucking night in the cells wouldn't hurt, you know.
No, there should be some kind of repercussion for that, though, because mob tactics are mob tactics. You know, they're unacceptable, and they pollute the discourse anyway. You know, you can't have a proper conversation if that's going to be the thing that's going to happen.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I one of the things that warms me to Spino is that actually on a personal level, he's a very nice guy to deal with. But even if it were fucking Davis or Reaney, you still shouldn't go around, you know, harassing someone like that. It's just wrong, you know.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I had to defend Roosh V in a video. I don't respect Roosh V at all. I don't respect what he does in any way, shape, or form. But I cannot stand that a bunch of feminists in Canada recognized him in a bar and decided to chase him all the way back to his hotel room, intimidating him along the way.
I was with the campaign to keep him out of Canada, because basically, if the Canadian people, I don't think and I would be for the same if he were to try and come to Britain. I'd be more than happy to sign any petition to keep him from coming here, because I think he's a poisonous individual. I don't want him around. I don't think he's good for anything. But on the basis that if he were allowed into the country, I don't think you can then go and throw drinks on him and chase him back to the hotel. Although I did laugh in that video where he gets chased back to the hotel. He obviously he's physically intimidated, and that's out of order. But I like the fact that once he gets behind the big glass door, all of a sudden he puts his arms out as if he's about to start. You fucking wanker. Acting a big man behind a fucking big glass door, you cunt.
Well, the funny thing that got me is the last woman who's like, "Eat my cunt," and it's like, yeah, he's trying to do that.
Yeah, I think that's sort of the point.
But yeah, I you know, in my opinion, that's completely unacceptable as well. But what I'm interested about the fact that you'd signed a petition to keep him out of the country. Yeah. Why would you do that? I mean, what's the difference, really?
I think he's poisonous, and not just that, but I think people like him and Julian Blanc and a lot of those kind of professional pickup artist people. And again, hashtag not all pickup artists, obviously, but a lot of those people essentially come to a place in order to teach men how best to get away with sexually assaulting and raping women.
But if that's the case, why wouldn't it be made illegal?
Pardon?
If that were the case, why wouldn't it be made illegal?
I would argue that it should be.
Right, okay. So
I think to go around advising people how best to sexually harass, at best sexually harass, and oftentimes, I mean, I'll get the clips packaged together if people are interested, of them essentially teaching men how best to physically assault women.
Yeah, but is it teaching physical assault, or are they just teaching people how to best approach women to get consent?
Well, no, that's
I'm not a fan that I have to defend these people.
Well,
I don't like pickup artistry at all.
Julian Blanc's choke opener, he calls it, where you literally go and physically grab a woman by the neck and push her against a wall, staring into her eyes. That's physical assault, and that's a technique he has taught.
I think it could be construed as that if someone isn't willing. Yeah, I suppose it could. I mean,
well, that's the thing. He doesn't teach to ask to do that. That's literally, you've never met the person before in your life. You see them in a club, you go over and you do that action to them. That's physical assault. That for me should, and I would argue probably is, a crime.
Yeah, and no, that's fair enough. I mean,
he was banned.
Grabbed my neck. It doesn't matter if they were trying to chat me up or they were trying to fight me. I would consider it tantamount to incitement to a fight. You know, I would assume.
Well, yes, but when you're dealing with, and Julian Blanc's a relatively well-built man, And if you're a woman in that situation,
No,
I'm not entirely sure you can fight back.
No, I agree. I mean, that is unacceptable in my opinion.
But on that basis, that's the kind of shit is why I would sign a petition to keep filth out of my country.
Well, I think it would be the thing is that this is the issue, though, right? This is the issue. The action itself is wrong, but targeting the individual is also wrong. Especially given that I don't think that it's fair to say that Roosh does that either. From what I've seen of Roosh, it's just more slimy. It's I've not seen Roosh like advocating violence or anything like that to anyone. I'm not saying he doesn't. I'm just saying I don't.
Well, I would argue that his plan to legalize rape on private property is him advocating.
I don't know what the deal with that is, but it's someone told me that was him just being inflammatory.
Well, I don't. Well, okay, fine, but do it.
I mean, I don't know. And again, I don't want to defend the guy, but it sounds like him trying to be an edgelord, rather than like seriously campaigning to get.
I don't ultimately give a fuck why they're doing it. No. It's the same with Paul Elam with his thing about always acquitting a rape defendant, even against.
Yeah, that's a silly thing to say.
Evidence. I don't care why they're doing it. I don't. Ultimately, they can do whatever they want, but you do it in your own country then. If you're going to come to my country, you're not going to be a cunt about it. Yeah, but it's as simple as that.
This is the point, right? I also disagree with Paul Elam saying that if you're in the jury on a rape case, you should just vote to acquit. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's irrational. But what would the punishment for that be?
Is it perjury? Is that or perverting the course of justice or something?
Oh no, maybe I am.
Yeah, so I would think it would be... No.
Perjury is the act of swearing a false oath, apparently.
Yeah, sorry, perverting the course of justice, yeah.
Maybe it could consider that, but I mean, I think really just having a bias, isn't it?
I think it absolutely is. If you're literally saying overwhelming evidence, but you're still going to acquit, that's perverting the course of justice.
Yeah, but I don't know that that's a crime. I think that's just someone having a lot of bias.
Absolutely. What do you mean? Perverting the course of justice is a very serious crime.
What is that? Yeah, but I don't know that comes under the category of perverting the course of justice.
I would. I'm not a lawyer, but it must do. If it doesn't, then the law should be amended because that's clearly fucking wrong.
Well, this is the thing, right? Now, this is exactly the point I wanted to get to, right? And I think this will probably be the point we have to end on. But the issue isn't that this thing is wrong. Obviously, this thing is wrong. It's stupid as well. But the issue is that a group, a giant collective, and an undefined but potentially thousands of people shouldn't be targeting an individual just because he does or says something that isn't illegal, but they don't like, right? And this is the case. This is the case with Roosh. And the problem is that it makes it personal and it makes it targeted against this one guy. What they should be doing is targeting the law and petitioning lawmakers saying, look, we think that as a blanket term, as a non-personal, non-targeted law, there should be a law that says people who are promoting whatever Roosh is promoting shouldn't be allowed in the country. That way, it's not being vindictive and specifically targeting one man. That way, it's not a harassment and bullying campaign against him. And that way, it's not infringing on Roosh's civil liberties. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. I think there's certainly some merit to that argument. But I think part of the problem is that regardless of which way around you want to go with it, and obviously with the fact that the media works the way it does and the fact that people have got limited amount of time, the kind of shock value of let's go after Roosh works as a thing, and that encourages other people to do that. But even if you didn't, even if you just went down the line of lobbying politicians to get a change to the law, people would come out and say, oh, isn't this draconian? Because they're trying to take away everyone's right to everyone's civil liberties.
It's
in the same way that when
what they think should be illegal, isn't it?
Well, the example I would use is, which obviously you and a lot of other people in your kind of sphere picked up on, was when Anita Sarkeesian and Zoe Quinn spoke at the United Nations in favour of, at least in part, a change to laws in terms of harassment online. Mm-hmm. Now, you could say that was them attempting to do the thing that you just advocated for, but I know that you didn't support it because I saw, I've seen videos from you in the past saying that that's draconian and that's against.
Well, it's not that I disagree that Anita Sarkeesian and Zoe Quinn shouldn't be allowed to speak at the UN. I've never said that. I think it's ridiculous that they're being given time at the UN based on nasty things people have said to them on Twitter. I think that's absurd. You know, with actual real world violence going on towards women, I mean, I can hardly believe the entitlement. If I was Anita Sarkeesian, I would be ashamed of appearing at the UN and talking about how I received nasty words on the internet. That would be...
It's not just nasty words, though, is it? It's rape and death threats.
Yeah, but either way, she's
even if
unraped, unkilled, whereas millions of women are being raped and killed around the world, and I would have thought that would be a more important pressing issue.
Well,
but apparently it's not.
Well, that's
have to take up their time.
That's the fallacy of relative privation. Just because there are actual rapes and actual murders.
I'm not saying that it's not bad for Anita Sarkeesian. What I'm saying is the UN is a limited organization with a limited budget and a limited amount of time. You know, okay, yeah, it's horrible for Anita Sarkeesian for people to say that she sucks on the internet, which was one of her main contentions when she was at the thing. But from the UN's point of view, they should look at it and go, well, that's terrible.
Well, I'm not going to defend
women being, you know, genitally mutilated in Africa. So maybe that should be where we spend our time and energy. You know?
Well, without going too far into it, the UN doesn't seem to be doing anything about anything. So
yeah,
that's true. The idea that they should focus on X, Y, or Z, they should focus on something at least, for fuck's sake. And I don't agree that Anita Sarkeesian or anyone is above criticism on the internet. But my point is, when you start getting people sending rape and death threats in a coordinated attempt to try and silence somebody, that's fucked up, and a law needs to be enforced. And I'm not saying it's easy to write because laws aren't.
I know. But the thing is, I don't think this is coordinated. I honestly don't think it's coordinated.
You don't think the harassment of Anita Sarkeesian was coordinated?
Honestly, I think it's just
any groups of online people
hate her. I really do. I mean, where is it being coordinated? What's going on? What kind of coordination is happening?
Well, you must know that the Chan boards have been awash with the same sort of shit about my little fucking group or our
I don't know. I never go on the Chan boards, man. I'm too old to understand Chan boards.
Okay, well, I would advise that you take a brief look at some of them, because you're talking about something with a certainty that you just admitted you can't.
Well, okay, I mean, if there are coordinated attacks on Chan boards, then sure, there should be something done about that. You know, any kind of attack.
Well,
you know, like without wishing attack should be.
Without wishing to seem facetious, the thing that you've just said there, if I'd said, you and your fans would say authoritarian. Yeah, okay, you take away my freedom of speech.
Hang on. Right, what I'm saying is within the limits of the law. I mean, sending rape and death threats is illegal, and I'm happy for that to remain illegal. I don't want to rescind that or anything like that. I don't think that falls under the purview of free speech. That's sending people threats and harassment. So, you know, more than happy for that to remain legal, and more than happy for, you know, the FBI cybercrime division to be able to be given full powers to find out who these people are and punish them to whatever the law says. That's not authoritarian. That's legalism, and I'm happy for that to occur. But I mean, if you've got proof that people are coordinating to send her death threats and stuff, I mean, that's the sort of thing the authorities should be given, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But what I'm saying is I don't know anything about that. I never go on Chan boards because generally they hate me, and because I'm not like a neo-Nazi or whatever. So I'm not popular on them generally anyway.
But my point was, you said with a certain amount of certainty anyway, that those attacks weren't coordinated, even though you just said that one of the very places that I know that these kind of events do get coordinated.
Well, I should clarify then. I don't know that they're being coordinated, and I haven't seen any evidence to suggest they're being coordinated.
Okay.
From what I've seen, it looks like there are just a lot of people who dislike Anita Sarkeesian.
Well, that's fine. If it were just that, I'd never have spoken about her. If it had just been a lot of people saying, I don't like Anita Sarkeesian, or a lot of people saying, I don't like Anita Sarkeesian, and here is why, that's fine.
Yeah.
But it's people saying, I hope Anita Sarkeesian gets stabbed to death and her corpse gets raped and burned. That's not on.
It's very rude, but it's not a threat, is it?
Well, it is when they say, I'm going to do
Well, yeah, no, I agree. When they say, I'm going to do something, that's a threat.
Yeah.
But to just express the desire for Anita to be whatever, that's not a threat. I mean, it's very ugly. It's gross. You know, I personally would never say anything like that because I don't want that to happen to Anita Sarkeesian. I actually want Anissa Sarkeesian to live a long and happy life where she isn't touched by a single person and she remains entirely unaffected by everything that happens, because that would be the win condition for me, because then she'd have nothing to complain about. Okay. I'm tired of hearing about people sending Anissa Sarkeesian nasty messages on the internet.
Well, I think on that point is a perfectly salient point to finish on, because I think we both agree.
Great, that's fantastic. Well, I'd really like to thank you for coming on and having a reasonable conversation, Kev, because I understand that, in videos and on Twitter and stuff we go at each other, but it's nice to be able to actually discuss the issues, discuss where we lie, because it's so hard for both sides to come together and actually do that. I really appreciate it.
Well, I genuinely enjoy reaching across the aisle, so to speak, even though the aisle probably isn't as big as it often appears.
No,
I do enjoy talking to people of different perspective, if even just for the selfish reason of sharpening my own sword.
Yeah, no, I honestly, that's one of the main reasons I enjoy it so much, is because it allows you to, focus and, like you say, sharpen your own sword to understand why you're on the position that you are.
Absolutely.
Okay,
and but hopefully this kind of conversation becomes more frequent between people, especially feminists and anti-feminists. There needs to be some detente at some point, because this is.
I completely agree. Completely agree. I would be more than happy to have a conversation with any other feminist about feminism, about any of this, really, because the issue is getting them to talk. Because I like to think that it's obvious that the people who are opposing feminism aren't doing it because they hate women, and I'm so tired of hearing this. It's become a joke. Nobody, as far as I'm aware, very, very few people actually hate women. The problem is and most people aren't even necessarily opposed to the goals of feminism. It's the methods, like you say, like the intimidation of Spinosaurus kin and stuff like that. It's so hard to not be against that, and so it's really understanding that both sides can argue in good faith. That if you can speak to any feminists on your side that you speak to and say, okay, you might not like Sargon, you might not like what he says, but he will at least talk to you in good faith and try and understand your positions honestly, if you just take the time to go and talk to him.
I will discuss with my femi peeps and see if any of them are interested. I can't promise anything, but I'll have a word.
Well, thank you very much, Kev. I appreciate it. And I'm sure that everyone in chat, I'm sure that plenty of people have disagreed with what you said, but I'm sure that they all appreciate, the fact that it takes balls to come on to a channel that is, broadly against what you stand for, and, and air your points. It takes, it's a brave thing to do, and I appreciate it.
Well, so thanks for having me on, man. I enjoyed it.
Not a problem. Take care.